In this video, I'll teach you everything you need to know about Selenium to get up and running as fast as possible. Even if you're a beginner Python programmer, you can follow along. What I'm going to show you is actually pretty simple, yet quite powerful when it comes to creating bots or doing web automation with Python. I'll show you how to navigate elements, click on elements, send keys, hit the enter button, do a bunch of stuff, and I'll even run you through an entire example of automating a website from the start to the finish, so you have no doubts how to do that by the time you finish this video. With that said, let's go ahead and get started. So to begin, I'm going to assume that you have Python installed on your system and you have some kind of editor or IDE. In my case, I'll be using VS Code. So please open up your editor. If you don't already have one, you can download one for free. You can simply Google VS Code and download the editor. What we'll do is make a Python file. In my case, I'll just call this main.py. And now that we have this open up, we're going to go ahead and install Selenium. What I will do is open up my terminal here. For this command to work, you need to have Python installed. And you're going to type pip install and then Selenium like this. If you are on Mac or Linux, you're going to do pip3 install Selenium. And notice that for me, I actually already have this installed, so it went pretty quickly. Again, you can try pip3 install Selenium. And if that doesn't work, Python-m pip install Selenium or Python3-m pip install Selenium. If none of those work, I'll leave two videos on the screen that show you how to fix your pip command so you can get Selenium installed. Now that you have Selenium installed, we can import it and start writing a basic script. So at the top of our code, we're going to write from Selenium import WebDriver. Don't worry if you get a yellow squiggly line, that just means that it's not finding the installation, but it will work when you run the code. We're also going to say from selenium.webdriver.chrome.service import with a capital S service. And what we're going to do now is set up our Chrome driver service, which I'm going to talk about more, and then use that to initialize our WebDriver. Now, the way that Selenium works, or at least the way we're going to use it, is we actually create something known as a WebDriver, which we need to download and install in just 1 second, which will be an automation tool that controls Google Chrome. Now, you can do this with Firefox and a bunch of other browsers, but Chrome is definitely the most popular. So what we're going to do is create something known as a service, and we're going to say service is equal to service, and inside of here, we're going to pass our executable underscore path, and that's going to be equal to a string. We're then going to say our driver is equal to webdriver.chrome, and we're simply going to pass inside of here service is equal to service. Now, at this point in time, nothing is going to work because we don't yet have the WebDriver that we need. Again, this is a piece of software which will be able to control Chrome for us and kind of act as a real user as we integrate or as we kind of automate the browser. So what we'll need to do now is go to a link. Let me pull up that link and I will leave it in the description so we can download our Chrome web driver. All right, so I've copied the link here as a comment and I've also put it right here inside my browser. Now I'll put this as a link in the description so you can just click on it, and this will bring you to the page where we'll be able to actually download our Chrome web driver. Now we need to make sure that the web driver we download is the same version of the Google Chrome instance that we have. So what I'd recommend you do is just update your Google Chrome so it's the most recent version. Then what you can do is go to this little link here. It says at the Chrome for testing availability dashboard. So it says latest Chrome driver binaries. We're going to click on this and it's going to bring us and show us all of the different versions of the web driver we can download. Now what we're going to do is click on the stable versions for whatever the most recent version of Chrome is. In this case, it's 119. When you're watching this video, it'll probably be higher than that. And when I click on that, it's going to bring me to the stable links. What we'll need to do is look for the Chrome driver installation, not Chrome, and we want to install the Win64 version. If we're on Windows, if you're on Linux or Mac, obviously you're going to install the appropriate version. If you are on the, M1, M2, M3 chips, I believe you need ARM, and if you are on Intel, you do the X64 installation. So I'm going to copy this link here for Chrome driver for Win64. And I'm going to paste this in my browser. When I do that, it will just pop up a download window for me. What I'm going to do is find the location where I'd like to save this. So it's going to be in the Selenium folder, and it's going to download a zip folder for me. So now that I have that downloaded, you can see it actually appears here in my VS Code. I'm just going to open this in my File Explorer, and I'm going to extract this zip folder. On Windows, you can do that by right-clicking and click on Extract All, and just extract the files to this location. On Mac, you should just be able to double click it to open, or you might need to use a kind of decompression tool, but I'm sure on Mac you're familiar with using a zip file. If not, you can always ask ChatGPT or look up how to uncompress it. Anyways, what we're going to do here is grab this Chrome driver.exe file. I'm just going to copy this file, so Control C, or in my case, Control X, because I cut it. And I'm going to paste it so it's directly in the same directory as my Python file. So notice I made my Python file main.py here, and Chrome driver is right beside it. Then I can go ahead and delete these zip folders. Okay, very important that Chrome driver is in the same folder as your Python file. Once you have that exe file, or whatever the installation file is, depending, Mac, Linux, etc., what you're going to do is put the name of it here. So we're going to say Chrome driver.exe. Okay, so I've placed that here, and now I'm specifying the path to this file is, well, this, right, which is right beside my Python file. Again, if you're on Mac or Linux, you're going to have to adjust this. So if it says like .dmg or some other kind of extension here, you're going to replace exe with whatever the file name is that you have beside your Python file. I think that is fairly clear. Okay, now that we have that, we have the ability to actually grab a website. So let's do that. We're going to say driver.get. And then inside of here, we can just put a URL that we want to go to. So I'm going to say google.com just for testing purposes right now. I'm going to import the time module. Okay, and I'm just going to say time.sleep. And I'm going to sleep for 10 seconds. And then I'm going to say driver.quit. Now, the reason I'm doing this is I just want to have a little bit of a delay so you guys can see what's going on. You don't need to do this on your computer. Anyways, this is all we need. So once we have the Chrome driver, we can do driver.get. Then we can go down here and say Python, and then the name of our file, which is main.py. Notice this only works when I am in the same directory where my Python file is. And if you know how to run your Python code, you can run it any way you want. This is just how I run it. If you're on Mac or Linux, you can do Python 3 main.py. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. Notice it's going to go to google.com. It's going to wait about 10 seconds. We'll get some logs down here, and then it should actually quit the window for us. Let's give this a few seconds. 5, 4, okay, and it quit. And there you go. That is the first instance of running Selenium. So we got Chrome driver set up. We're able to navigate to any website we would like. We're going to sleep for a few seconds, and then we can quit the driver at any point we want by running driver.quit. If there is no activity in the driver, then it will automatically quit. So I like to leave this sleep here just so we can see what's going on and actually visualize the whole process. All right, so now that we've done that, I will quickly show you an example where we can actually search for something on Google, and then we'll get into a bunch more interesting things we can do with Selenium now that the setup is done. So what I'm going to do is go to the top of my program, and I'm going to say from selenium.webdriver.common.by import by with a capital B. Now what I'm going to do right now is show you how we search for elements in the HTML, and then once we have access to an element, we're able to interact with it, click it, change it, do whatever we need to do. So what I want to do now is I want to actually find the Google search field, and then I want to click into it, and I want to type something in it and then hit enter so we actually perform a Google search. Okay, how are we going to do that? Well, to do that, we will say the input underscore element is equal to our WebDriver dot get underscore element. And then we're going to say by, so by, which we just imported up here, dot, and then we have a bunch of different options here. Now, in my case, I think I'm going to go with class underscore name. We'll talk about this in 1 second. And then we're going to specify the class name of the input field that we want to access. So let me explain this a bit more in depth and how this works. Let me just bring open google.com here. Okay, so anytime we are scraping a website or interacting with it with a bot, what we want to do is access the HTML elements that are on the page so that we can interact with them. So the way that we can figure out which elements to interact with is we can right click if we're in Google Chrome and hit inspect. When we do that, it will bring up the kind of console or terminal window here, whatever you want to call it. If I right click on this again, it kind of shows me the element in the code. Now, what I'm looking for here is some kind of identifier that I can use to access the element. Now, we can use the ID, we can use the class name, we can use the tag name. There's a bunch of different ways that we can access this, but in our case right now, we'll go with the class. So notice the class here is glfyf. Has no meaning to me, but I'm just going to copy that class and I'm going to paste that here. Now, since I specified that we're searching by class name, what we're going to do is look for the first element on the page that has this class, and then we'll access it and be able to interact with it. Now, if we wanted to, we could search by the ID as well, and we can search by a few other things that I'll show you later. But for now, we're going to do class name. Now, once we have the input element, what we can do is actually send keys to it, and we can click on it. So I'm going to say the input underscore element dot send underscore keys. And this allows me to just type something into the element. So in this case, I could type something like tech with Tim, and then you'll see if we go ahead and run our code that what should happen is we actually open up Google Chrome and we type tech with Tim. However, it gave me an issue here. It says WebDriver object has no attribute get element. Okay, that's weird. I believe it's because it is find element, not get element. So let's fix that up quickly. And now you should see that it types tech with Tim here in the Google search bar. Okay, so there you go. We access the element. We're able to type in. Now, what we probably want to do here is actually hit enter so we can search. So to be able to send a specific key, like an up arrow key, down arrow key, something that's not something we can actually type, what we need to do is another import. We're going to say from selenium.webdriver.common dot, and I think actually this might not be common. It is common. Keys, import, and we're going to import keys. And then what I can do is simply put a plus sign here and say keys dot, and with all capitals, enter. There's a bunch of other keys you can access as well, like shift key, capital, etc. In this case, we just want enter. So now what will happen if I run my code is we will open up the web browser, type tech with Tim, and hit enter, and it will bring us over here to this page. Sweet. So that is the first example of using the web browser. If you want to find an element, again, you can do that by the class name, the ID, a bunch of other things, which we'll look at in a second. All right, so all of this is great so far. However, I do want to mention that it is quite common that when you're doing web scraping, especially with this technique, you're going to run into a lot of issues. Now, that's because you're using a bot, and a lot of companies today are pretty smart. They can automatically detect bots, and they'll either just straight up ban your IP address, boot you off the website, redirect you, or they'll give you things like captchas that you need to solve that you won't be able to solve because, well, you are indeed a bot when you're interfering or interacting with that website. Now, at the same time, if you want to do a task, say hundreds of thousands of times, it's not going to be feasible to do that on your local computer. You're going to want to push that out to the cloud and be able to run multiple instances of your browser all at once. Now, fortunately, the sponsor of this video, Brightdata, actually has a solution for that and 360-degree solutions for any type of kind of automation, web scraping task, etc. Now, I've been working with Brightdata for over 2 years, and they have something called the scraping browser, which is relatively new. Now, what this is a headful browser that you can connect to from your local computer that runs in the cloud and has automatic unlocking tools. That means that you can browse any website you want. It will automatically solve captchas for you. It'll rotate the IP address so the IP will never get banned, and you can browse from any location you want, meaning even if you want to access something like a geolocked website, you're actually able to do that with Brightdata. The nice thing is it's literally a few clicks to get it set up. Super easy. I'm going to show you right now. And if you want to start with it or try it out, you can actually just get a free trial with Brightdata, and I'll leave a link to that in the description. Anyways, give me a second here to go to my dashboard. I'll show you how we spin up the scraping browser and how we can just plug and play it right into our code so we can automatically unlock any websites or solve any problems we might run into. All right, so I just went to my dashboard here. Now, as I mentioned, Brightdata has a ton of tools and not just the scraping browser. If you're trying to do anything at scale when it comes to scraping the web, interacting with websites, proxies, etc., definitely check them out. Regardless, I'm going to go to the view proxy products here. You can see I already have a bunch of stuff that I was using previously. And I'm going to go to add, and I'm going to click on scraping browser, which was what we're going to use. Now, this is a headful browser, and what that means is it will actually work with Puppeteer, Playwright, Selenium, and it has a few other features that headless browsers don't have. So just something to note. In this case, we can just call this tutorial Selenium like that. Go ahead and spin this up. We'll give that 1 second to run, okay? And what we can do now is go to configuration, and sorry, not configuration. We can go over here to check out the code integration and examples, and we can just click on the language that we're going to use, as well as the library, and it will tell us exactly the code we need to get this running. So I'm going to go here to Python and I'm going to click on Selenium, and I'm just going to copy all of the code that it has here because it already has all my connection parameters and everything. And if I wanted to, I could even go over here and I can kind of choose some things like taking a screenshot, finding elements, I can pick the site, etc. Okay, so I've selected that now, and I'm going to go over here. I'm just going to make a new file, main2.py, and paste all of this in. Now let's just make this full screen. What this is going to do is go to, let's go google.com. Okay, so let's just change this to google.com. And if I go ahead and run this code, what it will do is actually spin up a browser for me, go to google.com and perform any of the tasks that I want. It'll just work out of the box with Selenium. So if I wanted to search for Tech with Tim, if I wanted to scrape the website, doesn't matter, it's just going to work. And you can see there's some code here that we could uncomment that actually will tell us the status of this automatically solving CAPTCHAs or unlocking the website for us. Now, in this case, we don't need it because there's not going to be any CAPTCHAs on the website we're going to, but if there were, it would just automatically solve them for us and allow us to move forward kind of with the scraping. So what I'll do is go to Python demo2.py, but before I run this, I quickly just want to spin up something here. So if I go over and back to the next page, if you want to see the progress of what's happening here, since this is running in the cloud and not on your local machine, you can click on this button, which is the Chrome DevTools debugger, and it will actually show you in live time what's happening kind of with the browser. So you'll see if I run the code here, so Python, what do we call this? main2.py, not demo2.py. And then we click on the Chrome DevTools debugger. It will actually show the session, and we should be able to see that it's gone to Google. Let's give this a second here. Yes, you can see it went to Google, and then obviously if something was happening here, it would show us that. And then every time we run this, we can kind of reconnect to that session. Hopefully that makes sense, but I'm just trying to illustrate that you're not going to get like a big Chrome tab popping up here, which you actually don't want a lot of times when you're doing this at scale. Instead, you got to go over to Brightdata directly to do this. Anyways, I wanted to show that to you because I know a lot of you will be doing this for kind of more advanced tasks. So having a solution that's able to unlock the websites is super, super useful. Now, for the rest of the tutorial, we don't actually need this because there won't be any CAPTCHAs or anything that we need to solve. But if you do any web scraping at scale, definitely check out Brightdata. Very cost-effective solution. Anyways, you guys can see them from the link in the description. Thanks to them for sponsoring this video. Okay, so now that we know how to get by CAPTCHAs, unlocking, and all the other issues that could occur, what I want to show you is a few other things we can do with Selenium, and I want to actually automate a website for you and show you an example of how we would start this process from the beginning to the end. All right, so just to continue this example a little bit before we get into the larger one, I want to show you a few things that might be useful. So first of all, if you have an input element like a text field or a text area, you can actually use this .clear method. That's useful because sometimes it could have content inside there, so you might want to clear it out first and then actually send some keys to it, because this will not override what's in there. It will just append to the field. So you want to clear first and then send the keys. Other than that, a few things we can do are actually wait for the presence of elements. So sometimes what's going to happen is it's going to take a few seconds to actually load the website, and that means that we'll try to maybe access an element that doesn't yet exist. So if we want to wait for an element to exist, what we can do is the following syntax. And to do that, I just need to import something. I'm going to say from Selenium .webdriver support.ui import WebDriver wait, and then we're going to say pretty much the exact same thing. So copy this from selenium.webdriver.support. We're going to import the expected underscore conditions as EC. Okay, now this is going to seem a little bit complex, but this will allow us again to wait for the presence of an element before we go forward, so we don't run into an issue if what we're looking for doesn't yet exist. So what we can do is say WebDriver wait, and then we can pass in our WebDriver, and we can pass in the number of seconds that we want to have as a timeout. In this case, I could put something like 5 seconds, and this means if after 5 seconds the element doesn't exist, go ahead and just crash the program. We're not going to wait for it. So however long you want to wait, you put here in seconds. We're going to say dot, and this is going to be until, and then inside of here, we're going to say EC dot, and this is going to be presence underscore of element. Okay, and this is going to be located, and then inside of here we're going to put a tuple, and we're going to say by dot, and in this case we could do something like class underscore name, and then we can put the class that we want to wait for. So what this is going to do again is it's going to use our WebDriver. It's going to wait for up to 5 seconds until we locate an element by its class name that has this ID. Now notice I do have an extra set of parentheses in here. This is needed. So what I could do is I could put this right before my input element. And now if it was taking a second to load google.com, maybe you have a slow internet connection or something, you will wait until this element exists. Once it exists, you will then find it, access it, and you won't get errors saying, hey, we can't find this element on the page. Okay, so that's great. If we run our code, that will work. But another thing I want to show you is how we navigate based on some text. So if we pop open our code here, and sorry, that's not the one that I wanted to run. I want to run main.py. You will see that when we search tech with Tim, we have some link text here. Now, I don't necessarily know what the ID of this will be, but what I do know is that I want to click on something that says tech with Tim. So what I can do is actually find an element based on its text, especially if it's a link. So if you want to click on some link that's going to redirect you to another page, you can do what I'm about to show you here. So I'm going to say link is equal to driver dot find underscore element, and this is going to be by dot partial underscore link underscore text. And then for this text, I'm going to say tech with Tim. Now, what this means is that if tech with Tim in this capitalization exists inside of some kind of anchor tag or link tag, we're going to go ahead and access it. So this is what I'm looking for, this link. And then I can simply say link.click. And what this will do is actually redirect me to whatever the link goes to, okay? So this allows us to click on a link. Now, if you wanted to find the exact text, so maybe you don't want to find something that just has tech with Tim, you want it to only say tech with Tim, you can use link text like this. This finds the exact text. This will see if text is contained inside of an anchor tag. Now, the way that all of these find elements work is they'll find the first thing on the page that adheres to whatever you put here. Now, for some reason you wanted to find all of the links that had tech with Tim, you could actually do find elements. What that would then do is return you an array of all of the different elements that you could iterate over. So for example, you'd have like element 1, element 2, etc. Then you can access those elements and you can do whatever you want with them. So if you're trying to find multiple, you can use find elements. If you just want one, which is most of the time what you want, then it's just going to be find element. Okay, so if I do this now, it should work. However, we might again run into that problem where it takes a second to load the element and we get an issue here. So what I'm going to do is just copy this. I'm going to go here. I'm going to take my by. I'm just going to paste that inside of here. So now I'm going to wait for this to exist. As soon as it exists, I'm going to click on it and I'll wait up to 5 seconds. So I'm going to run my code, give this a second, tech with Tim, and then it should actually click on this link here, and notice it does. It clicks there and goes to my YouTube channel. Okay, there you are. That is kind of the first example. Now that we have this, what I actually want to show you how to do is automate the cookie clickers website. Let me set up that demo and we'll be right back. All right, so I've gone to the famous website of cookie clickers, which was one of my favorite games when I was younger and in school. Anyways, the point of this game is you click on this cookie, it gives you a bunch of cookies here, and then you can buy some upgrades, which will automate the cookie collection process. So you can buy this cursor upgrade, for example, and it should just automatically click the cookies for you. You can buy all these other kind of upgrades that appear. Very simple though, you just collect as many cookies as possible. And what I want to show you how to do here is automate this site. Now to automate this site, what we would need to do is navigate to the site. We're going to have to click on this cookie infinitely, so as many times as we can. Now, once we have enough cookies to buy an upgrade, we're going to actually go over and click on that upgrade to purchase it. And this way I'll be able to show you how we access the value of different elements and do things dynamically on the website. So this will give you a bit of a better idea of how to do a more in-depth automation. Obviously, still pretty simple, but I think this will be a good thing to look through. So the URL is right here, but I will leave this in the description. You also can just Google cookie clickers and it'll pop up really easily. And I've just set up the same kind of boilerplate that we had before. So I brought in all my imports, I brought in my service and my driver, and I'm now going to this website. So now what we can do is actually pop up this website. So I should have left this open. And kind of the first thing we want to do here is we want to start locating the classes that we're going to want access to when we're automating this site. So I'm going to right click on this and click on inspect. And you'll see here that we have this button and it's called Big Cookie. And this is the ID. So what I'm going to do is just copy in this ID. And the first thing we'll do is we'll just look for an element that has this big cookie ID, and then we'll start clicking on it. Okay. So we can do that as step 1. We can say the cookie underscore ID is equal to big cookie. And then we can find this. So we can say the cookie is equal to driver dot find underscore element. This is going to be by the ID. And then we're going to say comma cookie underscore ID. And for now, we can simply say cookie dot click. Now, there is going to be an issue here, but I want to show this to you because it's somewhat educational. What I'm going to do is run my cookie clickers file. I created a new Python file here. So I'm going to go ahead and run that. And notice actually that what happens right away is we get an error. Now, the reason we get an error is it says that the element we're trying to click is not clickable at this point. And the reason we got that is because you might have noticed that when this popped up, we'll see if we can look at it quickly again, it actually asked us to pick a language. Now, this is something, again, that could happen that might not happen in your instance because you might have already selected a language like I did. So what we need to do in this instance is actually select a language. Once we select the language, it's then going to load again, and then we can start pressing on the cookie. So to select the language, that's kind of the first thing we'll need to do here. So what I'm going to do here is just copy in this line right here because we're going to use this to wait for the presence of an element. And what I'm going to show you how to use here is something known as the XPath. Now, XPath is kind of this fancy syntax that you can use that allows you to search for specific text, specific attributes, all kinds of stuff. I'm just going to copy in the exact line that we need. I'll kind of explain it a bit, but if you want an XPath piece of code and you don't know how to write it, you can just go to ChatGPT and say, hey, here's the HTML element I'm trying to target, or you can kind of describe what it is that you need, and it will give you actually the XPath syntax, So again, I know it seems a little bit weird. We have 2 slashes, an asterisk, a set of square brackets, and then we're using a function called contains. And what we're looking for is some text. So the text inside of an HTML element that contains English because this is the language we're going to select. I know that's not super clear, but this is XPath. You can look it up if you want more information, kind of a cool way to select HTML elements. I'm not an expert, so that's going to be the extent of my explanation. So we're going to wait for that language to pop up. Then we're going to say language is equal to driver.find. Okay, and we're going to find by XPath this language, and we're simply going to click on it. Now to click on it, we can just say language.click. Okay, so we're just going to click on that element. And now we're going to wait for the cookie element to appear. So we're going to copy this. Okay, and we're going to go by ID, cookie ID. We're going to paste that inside of here. And then we're going to say time.sleep 10 seconds down here. So now what should happen is we will wait for the language to appear, click on the language, wait for the cookie to appear, and then click on the cookie. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and run this code. Give this a second here to load up. And we got an issue here. It says WebDriver has no attribute find. Okay, this is because it needs to be find element. Sorry about that, guys. Let's fix that up. Okay, give this a second. And there you go. It went ahead and clicked on the language, and then it clicked the cookie 1 time. Sweet. Now notice we have our upgrades down here. So what we'll have to do is actually find the classes of those upgrades so we can look at them. We also need to know how many cookies we have. So if we open up cookie clickers here, you can see that first of all, if we want to see the number of cookies that we have, it is inside of this div. So if we open this up, we can go inside of here, and that's not right. Inspect. Okay, for some reason, it's having trouble telling me where the cookies are. I think it might be here. There you go. So we have div ID cookies. Okay, so that's what we want. So we're going to access the ID cookies to see how many cookies that we have. So let's start with that. We're going to say our cookies underscore ID is equal to cookies. Let me just minimize this for now. And what we'll do is we will set up a while loop here, and we'll say while true. And while this is true, we're going to click the cookie, and we're simply going to print how many cookies we have so that we can see what that number is. So we're going to say our cookies count. This is going to be equal to driver.find underscore element. We're going to say by.id again. And then this is going to be the cookies ID. Okay. Now what we want to do is access the text like that. So now what we can do is we can print out the cookies count, which is going to give us the text inside of that element. And before we do that, we can say cookie.click. So now we should just infinitely click the cookie and be printing out how many times or how many cookies we have. So let's run this code and give this a look. Okay, give this a second to go through here. And we got an issue, and it says, what is the problem? Okay, I got a weird issue there, but I'm just going to remove this cookie click on line 30, which I think will actually be the issue. I'm going to go here and run this again, and let's hope that it works this time. Okay, give this a second, and there you go. Now it's working, and you can see it's printing out how many cookies we actually have. Now I'm going to stop this, and notice it says 123 cookies per second, 0. Okay, don't worry about that. What we want to do now is just get the number, because we need to have just the number, not this whole string part. So to do that, I'm just going to go to here, and I'm going to say .split at a space, and I'm going to grab the first value here. Then I am going to say the cookies underscore count is equal to the cookies count dot replace. And I'm going to replace all the commas with an empty string and convert this into an integer. The reason for that is that we might have commas in this number. If you have a comma, it's going to cause an issue in Python. So we're going to remove all of those and convert this into an integer. And now if we print out the cookies count, it will just give us that numeric value. Now that's fine. I think that we understand that's going to work. Now we want to look at the upgrades. So if I click on the upgrade here, you can see that the upgrades are within this product 0, product 1, product 2, and product 3 ID field. And what we need to know is actually the price of the upgrade. So if we go into content, you can see that we have these IDs here, and they say product price 0, and at the same time, they'll say product price 1, product price 2, product price 3. So what we want to do is essentially iterate or look through all of these different IDs, see what the price of the upgrades are, and if we have enough cookies, we want to click on them. So I'm going to show you the code to do that. What we're going to do here is we're going to write the product price prefix is equal to product price. And we're going to say the product underscore prefix is equal to the product, like that. Okay. Now what we will do is we're going to say for I in range 4, because we have 4 products that we want to iterate through. We're going to say the product underscore price is equal to the driver dot find element. And this is going to be the product price prefix plus the string of I. And we're going to do this by dot ID, because they're all ID'd. Okay. Now, what I'm saying is, okay, I want to look for product price first 0, then product price 1, then product price 2, then product price 3. Now, just like before, I need to do this conversion. So I'm going to say product price is equal to product price dot replace. And I'm going to replace the commas with an empty string to remove them. And I'm going to convert this to an integer. And I'm going to say if my cookies count is greater than or equal to the product price, then what I'm going to do is actually locate the product. Now, the way I'll do that is the following. I'm going to say product is equal to driver dot find underscore element, and I'm going to find again dot by ID. This is going to be the product prefix plus the string of I, and I'm simply going to click this. Now, there's a few other things that we need to do, but this is kind of the basic idea. We're going to iterate through all of the different products. If we can afford any of those products, we're going to go ahead and click on them. Once we click on them, we'll simply break the for loop, and then we'll continue this process. That means anytime we have enough cookies to be able to upgrade, we'll automatically do that upgrade, and that's all we need to do. Now, a few things to note here. First of all, I found the price, okay? So once I find the price, if I have enough cookies based on the price, what I'm going to do is find the product. The reason I need to find the product is because that's the button, whereas the price is that little text tag. If I try to click on the text tag, it's going to give me an error. I need to click on that button as a whole. So that's why I have 2 separate finds here that I'm looking at. Hopefully that makes a bit of sense. Now, one thing that we need to do is we just need to make sure that this product price is actually a string, because it's possible that it won't be. So what I can do is simply say this: if product price dot is digit. So I'll say if not product price dot is digit. Then we are simply going to continue, which just means we'll go to the next product. This way we don't get an issue when we try to convert it into a integer. Now I can also actually just throw the dot replace up here. And this reminds me, I also need the dot text. So let's say text dot replace. Okay, so I'm going to grab this element. I'm going to grab the text inside of it. I'm then going to replace the comma with the space so that we get nothing there. I'm just going to remove that here because we no longer need that. Okay, I'm hoping that's clear, but this actually will be the finished code. So if we go ahead and run this now, we might get an error, we might not. Let's see and figure out if this is working. Okay, brings us over here to Cookie Clicker, and we do get an error. It says stale element reference. Okay, I'm not sure what that is. Sometimes I think you just get a weird bug with a caching issue. So if I rerun this, maybe it will fix itself. And there you go, it did fix itself. And notice it actually will automatically go over here and click on the cursor every time we have an upgrade. So it'll just keep doing this. And eventually, once we get to the point that the cursor is more expensive than the grandma upgrade, then we would go to the grandma upgrade and vice versa. Okay, now you can see why I needed to remove the commas, because we have like 1, 1000. That's obviously going to be an issue, and Python is not going to like that. So I needed to remove it. So we can let this run as long as we want to, but that is automating cookie clickers. And that's pretty much all I had to show you in this video. So with that said, I think I will wrap it up here. All of this code will be available from the link in the description. I hope you enjoyed. I look forward to seeing you in another YouTube video.